Hey, it's Kristoff Jenkins, founder and creator of The Poet Life and the Poetry Business Network. But as you can see, the host of the Poetry Business Podcast. Today is a good one, y'all. As you can see, we have two people that are awesome, and you'll see how awesome they are. They are not in the same country or continent that I'm in. And that's the beauty of poetry. It is so expansive, and we're going to show you how expansive it is. So I have with me Kate Jenkinson, which is awesome. Like my last name is in her last name, but also I have Vincent Avanzi. And how y'all doing?
Beautiful. How are you? It's a pleasure to be here.
All is well. Kate, you good?
I'm really good, thank you. Yeah,
All right,
and
beautiful.
excited to be here.
Indeed. So, Vincent, do me a favor. I know I didn't do you justice with a good introduction. So, share with me who you are, what you do, and how you add value.
Yes, well, thank you for receiving us today. We're delighted to be here. So I'm a Chief Poetic Officer. I gave myself a life mission to re-enchant the world with poetry about 10 years ago, and especially inside corporations, organizations, but also schools and prisons, and basically use poetry, use the magic of poetry with its soulfulness, its heart, its ability to give us hope for the future in life. That use the virtues of what poetry is to enlighten our lives, basically, and to enable everybody to find their light and enlighten the world with it. So it's been a beautiful 10-year journey, and I'm delighted to start my second decade on that. So that's what it is.
Ooh, nice. So, you've been in it 10 years.
Yeah. I founded the Ink of the Future 10 years ago, and I've done about 500 poetic interventions in different corporations all around the world, and on different subjects, and a lot of sustainability now, because it's a very not trendy topic, but an essential topic to design new futures. That's what poetry can also do. So use that as a tool also to magnify reality and then give us a good positive horizon.
That's dope. And I like your title, Chief Poetic Officer, the CPO.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I like the title also to because it also brings me back to the ancient chief, Indian chief with the the little all the feathers, not the chief or manager, but in the sense of bringing some wisdom inside business,
Yeah.
also inside life. So that's the reference that I have with it. So just to bring some good
Do you know
the
why I like that? Because CPO is also Chief People Officer. It's the most
Mm,
senior HR role in an organization usually. And I just love the way that you have twisted it into being more about poetic. But for me, being a poet is about being a connected person anyway. It's all about people. So
mm.
CPO works for me too.
I like it. I like it.
Listen.
So since you're already flowing, Kate, who are you and what do you do and how do you add value?
So it's funny how about 10 years ago, we must have all been inspired by something because 10 years ago, I started my journey of exploring the power of poetry to make a positive impact in the workplace. Being an HR professional, I was drawn to the fact that we often lose creativity throughout life. And how can we get creativity? How can we get innovation back into organizations? And I just thought the answer for me was through poetry,
Mm,
because poetry has this incredible power to unite people, because it is that people energy that we get flowing through poetry. So, and I'm like, why is no one else seeing this? What is it that I am noticing that I can find out there in the world? And so 10 years ago, set out on this journey and ended up connecting ultimately with you two guys, and many other people, because last year I founded the Poetry and Business Conference to share what I'd learned on that 10-year journey. Because
Wonderful conference.
it was amazing in that it brought together people like ourselves who identify as chief poetic officers, poets, business poets, people who see the value of both um, creativity through being poetic and growth through enterprise. And the two for me are not separate. They totally overlap. So the fact I never see the fact that people say to me, well, business and poetry are two separate things. I'm like, no, enterprise and poetry are the same thing. And if you've not got enterprise in your business, you've not got creativity, you've not got innovation, you've not got meaning making. So actually, you're missing out by not seeing the two things as one. So that was my philosophy behind the conference, was to show people what that looks like, what that sounds like. And I didn't realize it would bring together, I should have, but I didn't realize it would bring together people who were on that journey as well. And so I'm so delighted that we're even here together having this conversation going, yeah, this all makes sense to us, because I've not just long come from another gathering of minds where people are going, no, we can't use the word poetry in business, people won't understand it. And I'm like, actually, we can use the word poetry in business, and we will use it, and we will help you understand it. So
That's so good. So good. But it's so interesting. I don't think we've even talked about this, us three. It's my 10-year anniversary of the Poet Life.
All right.
Something happened 10 years ago.
2015 was an interesting year. That's beautiful. And for us to come together at the 10th year. So I thought I was the only one talking about poetry in business.
Yeah.
Until a few months ago. How many months ago did I reach out to you, Kate? It was 3
November.
months?
It was November last year.
4 or 5 months ago.
3-4 months ago.
Right. And I just hopped on LinkedIn to post something or do something. And then your promo video, your live video or recorded video of you talking about your poetry in business conference that week. And I was like, oh my God. And it was almost like I have a long lost sister or family member. And then I messaged you on LinkedIn and we were like, let's hop on a video call. And then you pulled in Vincent and it was just like, wow.
Yeah.
And here we are.
That's
the terrible threesome.
Yeah. Or the terrific threesome.
Absolutely.
Exactly. You want to tell us what your approach is also, Kristoff? I know people on your podcast, they know, but I mean, like for people that may not be familiar to your approach.
No, I'm glad you asked. Also? I'm glad you asked, man. You know, I think we all have like similar journeys as far as people saying that there's no functionality in poetry, and you know it's just emotion, and it's just this and it's just that. None of that ever made sense to me, you know, because if we really think about what poetry is, it's messaging, it's words, it's information, it's education, it's facts, it's imagination, all bottled into one. And how can that not be valuable, right? And so when I was given the assignment in first grade to create a poetry book, I'm not talking about just write poetry. I'm talking about get the cardboard, fold it in half, staple the paper in there, put felt material on the cardboard to make a jacket, all of that, and then to write the poetry, at least 10 poems, I believe. And that was what, age 6, first grade, to be 42 now, and to see what that seed has grown into.
Yeah.
That just showed me the power of it. But also sometime about 13 years ago, a friend of mine who fought long and hard for 7 years with osteosarcoma cancer. His name was Justin Islar, passed away in 2012. He didn't start writing poetry until after he was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
So that just showed me that he used poetry as a coping mechanism, as a way to find peace, right? To release all of what he was going through, but also to leave a legacy.
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So all of his poetry was like journaling or chronicling his story or his journey with cancer. And now, when he succumbed, we collected all of his poetry and published a book of his poetry. So he lives on, his
Yeah.
words and stories live on, and it continues to impact others. So that just showed me, if we can, or if he could do that, then poetry could do that for so many other people in so many different areas of life. And so came fighting cancer with poetry, and then the poet life. And so
Yeah.
that's my journey in a nutshell. But I've been doing this work full time, January 7th, for three years. Poet Life 2015 to now 2025, and to know and to see where it has gone, it's just a beautiful thing. And I'm so glad to be connected with you all, because as you all know, it can get a little lonely.
It does. Not only lonely, you can sometimes wonder if you are slightly uh, crazy and at odds with the world, because you
Mhm.
can see the potential of poetry to create a beautiful um, space for humans to work and to live. And you think, why do people want to live with conflict and
Mhm.
anger and all of those negative emotions? Is that the choice we really want to make? And I
Mm.
think even more in the world, as the dynamics are unfolding now, it seems politically, yes, that is the choice we want to make. But, you know, poets see the world differently. We see the potential of the future to be one where we're connected, one where we appreciate differences, one where we are curious and where we want to co create a different way of being, because together we're stronger. And I think poetry enables that connection. So, yeah, I don't see the world the same way, but I definitely felt isolated from many of my
Mm.
peers because of my passion for poetry and what it can do.
Mm.
Um, and just what I just want to say, that was an amazing. Uh, it's not a story; it's a lived experience, Kristoff,
Mm.
with your friend there. And my sadness for the
Mm.
world and for people is that they come to poetry too late. They
Mm.
don't realize until end of life, or when something really significant and destructive hits them, that poetry actually is the one thing that generates hope in those situations.
Mm.
And it's
Yeah.
like, why leave it until those moments? Why not when you need hope, when you're feeling isolated and down? Why don't you reach for poetry before that point? Because actually, from a well being point of view, there is nothing better, I found anyway, than
Right.
re energizing, reconnecting yourself with your values and your motivations. And if it works at a personal human level, that's why it works at an organizational level. Those
Mm.
values on the wall can be way more meaningful with poetry. So, what are people waiting for? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I think we have a universal thing that's actually shared in all our country's education system. Also, that actually can help us understand that is the way we know why don't people write poetry today when it's one of the most wonderful art forms that exist. And when you think about it, what happened in school? Why don't we teach? Or I would love to live in a world where today we kind of teach our kids. Do your math and you'll succeed in life. Just to tell them, you know, live in poetry and you live and you'll live happy. Something like that. In a sense, that change the paradigm, but like understand
Yeah.
the beauty of poetry. And what it brings in your life to it. Brings your happiness, some harmony, and some dreams, and a beautiful side in you. And so I think it's a change also the system we live in, and then not to oppose both, but to actually bridge the gap between both, so that we can actually have a balance in that. So
Those
that's what
words
we're trying to do with
resonate.
in
This is
our
why we connected. We love creating bridges and balance.
Mm.
It's super. I love, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Um, we don't accept the status quo. It's like, yes, so that does happen in education, but we're not just going to accept that. It's like there is an alternative. just because that's what you learned when you were young, you rewire your brain to accept other things. So go back and rewire it when it comes to poetry. Poetry is not, in the UK, we're just taught largely war poetry. It's like, oh,
Mm.
great. So we're only kind of telling people, the poets who are in the most dire, difficult circumstances. No wonder people think poetry is for end of life or for terrible, difficult, because that's what they're introduced to. But actually, it's the poetry that we learned when we were in the primary school years that you mentioned, Kristoff. The rhyme, the rhythm, the alliteration, the poetic beauty of connecting with lyrical words that
Yeah.
really resonate with us and make us laugh and make us joyful. And that's the kind of poetry I want to lift up. It'd be
Yeah.
amazing if people were learning that at GCSE level in
Yeah.
the UK. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And, as it pertains to business, and I know a lot of the people who will be um, joining us April 10th, they're wondering, right? Okay, I get it. I'm getting it, I think. So how can this benefit or impact my bottom line?
Yeah.
And they may be asking that question. And so we then have to ask the question or the questions, what are the pain points in business? Like, one example might be, how do I best connect with my audience?
Yeah.
Right? How do I get my story out there, our mission and our vision out there? Not just get it out there, but how does it then connect with them when it's out there?
Yeah.
Right? And the beauty of poetry is, in order for a message to stick, it has to be attractive. It has to be attractive. It has to be creative and make someone feel.
It's
Right?
the feeling. Yeah.
That's why they say the law of attraction is so powerful, because it makes someone feel. If you want something, then you have to think about it, write it down, and feel how it will make you feel
Yeah.
when you have it. And so even at, like you said, education, right? In order to learn something, you have to internalize it. So if I'm teaching you how to, leverage and write poetry, you have to understand, if you have a thought and you want to write it down on paper through poetry, I then have to internalize my what I'm thinking about in order to think cleverly to
Yeah.
even write something down lyrically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So for me, it's exactly like you said, it's the meaning making power of poetry. So
Mhm.
everybody, you can have a vision and a mission, but unless somebody has made personal meaning of that for themselves, they aren't going to be aligned or connected. And so I work with people as a coach, and I coach them and I ask the question, how aligned are you with your organization's vision and purpose? Sometimes they don't even know what it is,
Mhm.
but it's helping them find a way to reach a connection, and they can do that. Poetry could either be the way the message is communicated so it resonates better with them, or it could be giving them a method to connect with the vision and mission with their own poetry. Now people get a little bit scared because they go, well, I'm not a poet, I can't write poems. It's like, this isn't poetry that you're going to publish in a book.
Right.
This is a poetic way of thinking.
Right.
This is different. And I think that's where people struggle when I talk about poetry. They think I mean, oh, because the only way that people experience or come into contact with poetry as adults is in a book, and it's on a shelf in a library that nobody goes to, and it's got no relevance for me. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, the people who wrote that poem, that poetry, were trying to convey feelings and emotions. And poetry is a way you can connect safely with your own feelings and emotions. So
Mhm.
that's all we're saying, that poetry can be of benefit to businesses, it's like alignment with visions and values and mission, it's meaning making, and therefore it's having everybody really emotionally, and emotion is emotion, it's the energy to create the motion to make things happen. So if you haven't got that emotion in your organization, poetry is a way to make that happen.
Very good. I love that. And we're going to give examples. We're going to break this thing down and give people and business leaders the opportunity to ask questions and share with us what your, again, pain points are, what your goals are, and then we're going to help you align how creativity and poetry can add value and help you with growth. Again, because without a connection to your audience, there is no growth.
Yeah, it is that human link. It is that communication. It's that creativity, and how you build a team together. It's also that that ability to be a more complete and a leader as well. How you can actually draw crowds to your a vision that you're going to present, and in yourself, find your singularity as a leader. How can you, if you're actually as a speech maker, how can you deliver a speech that can be both personal and universal to actually draw your crowds to where you want to get them into, what's your vision for the future. So it's really important for you to contemplate an ideal and project yourself into 2030, 2040. So that's a poetized way to actually write a speech, to actually foresee the future, and also to communicate it. The poetry is the art of words, or art of emotions, art of imagination as well. So these are very essential things for business to actually make it grow, and make it grow. And we were talking about meaning. Is what's the purpose? What's the purpose of a business apart from the business profiting of it? What's the higher purpose of it? What's the social, environmental, human impact you want to have as a business? Because we all also leads to that employee engagement, which is essential today. There was a study in France saying that 80% of employees actually were looking for other companies to actually go to this year, to actually maybe to change jobs, because they don't really know what's the purpose of their why they're getting up in the morning, why they're spending that much time to a company that doesn't really serve humanity in itself. And it's that way to bring your poetry in your life, and that's that soulfulness that I was referring to. Bring your why, the why, the why question. What it is. So it's a beautiful way to exit. So yeah, poetry is the magic of poetry is not about only reading poems. It's about writing. It's about looking at the world. It's about taking a step back, a step up, and look at the essentials. Look at people. Looking at finding the invisible beauty of people behind their physical state. To make sure you bridge the gap also between people, to actually draw teams together. So it's a wonderful treasure, as it is. It's a gold mine, I think, poetry, to help businesses and organizations and teams to actually co-write the future and so.
The irony, I think, is that people are using poetic ways of communicating and don't realize they're doing it. So, for example, what you've just said there, Vincent, was beautiful. You said, how can we make it both personal and universal? That was just a sublime line, if you don't mind me saying. But this is what we do as business poets. We help leaders recognize that that is a leadership message right there. So leadership is poetry and management is prose. So leadership, if you're going to connect with people's hearts and minds, make the whole body connection, try and engage everybody and bring them on board, you're already probably using poetic devices of alliteration, of the rule of three messages. You listen to any piece of spoken word and you will hear those devices. You are moved because of that way of communicating. And so as leaders, if you haven't learnt already some poetic devices in how to do a commanding, memorable speech, I'd be amazed. What you haven't been told is that that actually is poetry, and that the better leaders are the ones that communicate poetically. And it's wrong, that hasn't been made clear to you, and we're here to correct that wrong and make that right.
Beautiful. So let's do this real quick. Let's do this. Let's do round robin. Let's go around and give one example of how each one of us has helped an organization using poetry. Vincent, on you.
Yes, I do different things. I'll do a lot of poetic performances to open and close conventions, and I do a lot of conferences also. And my conferences are entitled "Enchant the Future as Poetic Leaders." So it's about that. It's about the art of speech. It's about the art of dreams, the art of being yourself, to find your own singularity and put in the service of a higher destiny. And in that, in those, and it's designed as a poetic journey where I actually take them on a journey to for them to write a poetized speech or a poetic manifesto of their dreams of the future, how they want to commit to and contribute personally to the collective adventure that the company is proposing to them, and to actually write it as inside the conference or the workshop, and then go on stage to share it. And the goal of that is basically for everybody to actually connect to everybody, connect to yourself, to your deeper self, to everybody, and to open a common horizon tomorrow. And it's a wonderful human spectacle when people are sharing their work of art and they're part of poetry, because there's nothing more beautiful and more impactful than somebody that's aligned with what he or she says. So it's really bring them in that beautiful power of a leader, in that aura that they can have to really, once they found their light, to enlighten the world with it. And that's what it is. Try to do a declick in that for them to actually connect to their most beautiful version of themselves and embark on a higher mission into that. So yeah, that's one example. Yeah, that's what I do in a lot of companies. Is really for that, and those are really always beautiful before and after moments for them to be more impactful and moving, inspiring leaders. So
Beautiful.
that's what.
Beautiful. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Kate, whatever you want to add value to an organization.
So I'll give an example. I like to ask leaders and founders of businesses to talk about their vision, mission, values to me, to just talk to me about what they love about what they do. So we talk about all the positives, all the strengths they bring. So that focus on positivity is an unusual thing to do in business. So first of all, they have to learn how to communicate that to me. I will then reflect that back to them in the form of a piece of spoken word poetry, and the magic that has for them, because that shows the beauty and the truth that they've shared with me reflected back to them, and it validates leaders, founders of businesses, those who've maybe lost their way a little bit or lost their passion. It reignites the passion, reaffirms what they're in business to do, why they're there, and it gives them some lines that they could use maybe in their marketing. It gives them some strap lines. It gives them some messaging to communicate. So as a business poet, I help interpret their language into a poetic form that they can use for many, many different things.
Nice. Beautiful. Beautiful. So
poets
are also translators.
What about you?
Yep, for sure. Poets are also translators. Like I said before, like you just said, we can take your mission and vision and translate it into something even more attractive and creative. For me, one of the projects or one of the campaigns that I worked with, a tobacco control organization, they had the need to target three different cities, LA, Atlanta, and New York. And they wanted to target youth, to encourage youth not to smoke, and to help them encourage their friends not to smoke and things of that nature. And so I shared with them, kids love creativity, right? They love to do things that they love to do, and they love lyrics. Obviously, they love rap. And so I said, I believe that they would also love where rap started within poetry. And I shared with them that it would be awesome if we did poetry events in those three areas, those three cities. So we, the Poet Life, would then fly out to those three different cities, put on poetry events to where a week or two prior, we would do workshops with the students and teach them how to write and perform. And the students would be the performers at the events. Obviously, we would also bring in our professional poets to encourage them, but also to show them, you know, what it really could be or what they could be in the future. And it was just a beautiful time to work with the students through the workshops and to see within a week's time how they accepted the challenge, built the confidence rather quickly, because initially some of the kids were super shy. I don't want to get on stage. But once they got involved, they didn't even realize that they were learning about public speaking. And they were learning about how to speak in front of their peers and other people. And by the time it was all said and done, they were dropping the mic like they were, you know, Obama, right? And so the community was served, the organization was served in many ways, not just because they got the task done and they made that impact, but post campaign, they then also had the content from the workshops and the poetry event. So that gave them social media content and website content that it just kept on giving. And so I just want to be able to show that initially the job gets done, but it keeps on giving.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I love that example. I love the levels and the layers of it as well, because that's the beauty of using this as a vehicle for connection across generations, across age gaps, across different parts of the community and the country. It's brilliant. Really.
So this is what we're talking about on April 10th. You can see down there at the bottom, join us April 10th on LinkedIn. And all three of us will be going further into detail with you. This is not a lecture. You're not just sitting there listening to us. This is very interactive. Most of what we do, if not all, is interactive, because who cares about us? It's about you and how we can add value to you. So we want you all to join us. Where are we all located? We're on 3 different continents. I'm in the United States. I'm in Washington, D.C. right now. Vincent, where are you located?
I'm in Paris, France.
In Paris.
Yes.
I'm in Yorkshire, in the UK.
Nice. So this alone says a lot.
Yeah.
That poetry brought us from 3 different places around the world here. And us 3, if you all don't know, we meet on a regular basis, because this is the Poetry in Business Coalition. We not only just came together, you know, through something that's common within us, but we saw the power in collaboration.
Yeah.
So we're doing what we're encouraging you all to do. We're coming together. We're not competing. We're in the same lane, but we're not competing.
We're poetic allies.
Whew, and that says so much concerning what's going on right now. So
that's the international collaboration we need to co-write a more beautiful future. So we'll be giving examples of corporations, of what we do, also, and going in depth of what you can do also in your organization and what have you. We'll have live poetic performances also, obviously, because that's what we can do also. And a lot of surprises also, and open Q&As, of course, for everybody to participate.
Indeed.
So we're really thrilled to have that event with everyone there. So
Beautiful.
Thanks for joining, guys.
If each of you all could leave something inspiring, if it's a statement or a message, share that with us, and we'll close out that way. Kate, on you.
I think you just did it. I think you just said the most inspiring thing is that poetry connects people across different barriers. The barriers are not there with poetry. It just accelerates trust and lubricates business, that reduces friction, and it makes visions come true faster.
Beautiful. Vincent.
Yeah, I think one of the things we can try to do is to co-write the future in poetry. I think that would be a beautiful thing, to co-write it each in our own lane with our own dreams, our own singularity, our own added value, our own talent zone, whatever we have to offer to the world, and give it to that, and in order to co-write it together, so that we can give birth to a more lasting and sustainable, desirable future, for us and future generations to build, to live in, as long as possible. I think that's our most connected to the living intention. So let's say that we'll write the future in poetry.
Beautiful. I'll leave you all with this. There will be times, and I'm sure you all know this, where you just don't want to talk, and right, because the next person can't relate, or you feel like the next person can't relate to what you're going through. I encourage you to pick up a pen or pencil and a paper and just free write.
Yeah.
Just write. I'm not asking you to write the best poem or the best rap in the world, the best song. Just free write and see how that feels. Just see how that feels. And you might feel encouraged to even take 2 of those lines to see if they rhyme at all. Yeah. Right. And then it changes the way you feel, because then you're like, oh wow, I just wrote my first rhyme.
Yeah.
Even in the feelings of grief and whatever it might be, just try that exercise, because poetry is also a form of therapy and healing. So this is beautiful. Thank you all. Thank you, both of you, for meeting with me. Literally, this is about 29 days away from our meeting again with us 3, but also with everybody that is RSVP'd and registered. It is free to all, so join us. You can go to LinkedIn and type in Poetry in Business Coalition. Our page will pop up. You can RSVP, and we will see you there. Where can they find you, real quick? Where are you all on social media?
LinkedIn for me, Kristoff, particularly for poetry and business. I've got my own website if people want to see some of the stuff I've done before, and that's under my business, Next Step HR Limited. And occasionally on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm a business poet, so my home is LinkedIn.
Beautiful.
Yes. Yes, same LinkedIn as well. I have my website called vincentavanzi.com. I'm on Instagram as well, and from my website you'll see there may be like 100 videos on YouTube of poetic performances, snippets, and different poetic journeys to give poetry to the world. So
beautiful. All right. If you want more information about myself and the Poet Life, just go to 3 easy words and add.com to it, thepoetlife.com. And listen, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for interacting. We'll see you all April 10th.
At the Poetic Advantage.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beautiful.